Okay, before we dive into this, let's just get this out of the way. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some guy who reads way too much about this stuff and likes to talk about it over beers. What works for me might be the dumbest thing you could do for your situation. You need to figure out what's best for you because your income, your tax bracket, your plans for buying a house, and even how long you plan to live in Canada will totally change the game. So don't just blindly follow me. Do your own research with the knowledge I'm giving you, and don't just copy some random stranger on YouTube like me without thinking it through. And that goes for all strangers on YouTube. Not a lot of them are educated, but they might have learned some stuff, and it will help you research it. Now let's recap about the three big Canadian tax sheltered accounts: TFSA, RRSP, and FHSA. And more importantly, what you should actually put inside each one so you're not just shoving random stuff in like it's a junk drawer. The TFSA, this is the rock star of flexibility. Your TFSA is like Swiss Army knife of investing. Growth is tax-free, withdrawals are tax-free, and contribution room comes back the next year if you take money out. It's the perfect place to put investments you expect to grow like a weed over time because the CRA never gets to touch the gains. This means high growth, high risk stuff thrives here. Think Canadian equities like VCN, US equities like VUN or VFV, or even international exposure like XEC, which is the emerging markets, and XEF is the developed markets outside North America. If you're feeling spicy, you can even keep your individual stock picks here because if one goes to the moon, you're not paying a dime in capital gains. But keep in mind, individual stocks are risky, and while you won't pay capital gains, you won't be able to claim capital losses either. You can hold US stocks here too, but remember, the IRS doesn't care about our TFSA. US dividends will get hit with a 15% withholding tax no matter what. It's small, but it's something to know. Still, the tax-free growth usually makes it worth it if the stock has solid appreciation potential. The bottom line, TFSA is where you keep your racehorses, the things you want to let run for decades without Uncle CRA cutting himself a slice. Now, the RRSP, the tax deferral machine. The RRSP is like a time machine for taxes. You put in money now, you get a tax deduction now, and you only pay tax when you pull it out later. Hopefully when you're retired, living on less income and paying a lower tax rate. Because of that, tax deferral RRSPs are great for stuff that would normally get taxed hard, like bonds, REITs, or US stocks that pay dividends. Bonds like VAB, throw off a lot of interest income, which is taxed as regular income outside of an RRSP. Inside an RSP, no tax until withdrawal. Same for REITs or EIT or XRE would be an example, which spit out big distributions that would otherwise make your tax bill cry. RSPs are also a good place to hold US dividend paying stocks like VUN or VFE. Thanks to a tax treaty, there's no 15% US dividend withholding tax if they're held in an RRSP. That's a nice little perk that the TFSA doesn't get. However, you want to work out if saving this 15% US dividend withholding tax is worth paying income tax later on withdrawal versus keeping these US stocks in another account and maybe only paying taxes on 50% of the capital gains. Now, the downside, if your RSP grows too big, you could end up pulling out so much in retirement that you get bumped into a higher tax bracket and lose government benefits like old age security or OAS through clawbacks. So while this stuff it to the brim crowd loves RSPs, you want to think about your long-term withdrawal plan. Sometimes a mix between RSP and TFSA makes more sense. Now, the FHSA, the new kid with the sweet sign-up bonus, the first home savings account, is a weird hybrid, kind of an RRSP and TFSA mashed together. You get a tax deduction for contributions, like an RRSP, but withdrawals for a qualifying first home are tax-free, like the TFSA. Annual contribution room is $8,000, lifetime limit of $40,000, and you can carry forward unused room. If you're planning to buy your first home in the next 15 years, max this out before you do anything else. It's literally free money. You can even combine it with the RSP home buyer's plan to supercharge your down payment. Now, if you don't end up buying a house, you can roll the FHSA into your RSP tax-free. Sounds nice, right? Well, careful. Once it's in the RSP, any withdrawals are taxed as income, not capital gains. So if your FHSA investments explode in value and you never buy a house, you could be stuck paying full income tax on a massive withdrawal later. Because of that, some people use the FHSA for safer growth. Still, decent returns, but not necessarily high volatility moonshots. Others just treat it like a bonus RSP and accept the tax hit later. It depends on your confidence in buying a home. Other people then want to get it so large that they put all their high growth stocks in there. So which one do you fund first? This is where it gets tricky because it depends on your life stage, income, and goals. If you're buying a home within 15 years, FHSA first, then TFSA, then RRSP. If you're early in your career and you expect to make a lot more later, TFSA first, then RRSP later, then the tax deduction is worth more. If you're already in a high tax bracket, RRSP first to get that sweet deduction, then TFSA. If you want total flexibility, TFSA first always. No strings attached, easy withdrawals. This is where it's different for everyone. My motto is quit buying daily lottos and just max them all out. Let me give you a quick example allocation. The TFSA, let's put a VUN, one of the ETFs for the US total market. VCN, which is Canadian equities, XEC, which is emerging markets, and XEF, which is the developed markets outside of North America. In your RRSP, you could put VAB, which is the Canadian aggregate bonds, XRE, which is real estate investment trusts, and maybe a bit more of your US dividend payers like VFB or VUN. FHSA, this will vary depending on if and when you're buying a house, or whether you'll be later roll it into an RSP, or if you just don't know. You might want high growth just in case you decide to buy the house. At the end of the day, these accounts are just wrappers. What matters is putting the right investments in the right wrapper so your money grows as efficiently as possible. Do it right, and future you will be paddleboarding on a beautiful lake on a Tuesday afternoon while everyone else is still stuck in traffic. And you know what? Subscribe, because I'll be showing you how to set up these accounts soon.